Paying attention to what's happening in the psych wards is exactly what told me what's happening in America, no doubt. Now, I was always a skeptic and never trusted the powers that be, whoever they were, but I didn't know where to direct my attention until I started to see a lot of the things happening right in front of my face as I worked in psych. It's so dense, it's so systematic what they're able to do. But let me give you like 8 things that I noticed working in psych that changed my complete outlook on what's going on in America and how they're actually pushing these initiatives. We'll start off small, all right? So working in psych as a tech, I noticed when patients would go to see the psychiatrist for the first time, it would be like a drive-by visit. He would see them for 2 minutes tops, and then somehow have a full diagnosis of what that patient is going through. Now, it's one thing to be a master speculator, and it's another thing to attach medications to these things that change the way that your brain works, the way that your body behaves, and you haven't fully vetted out whether or not it is this disorder or not. Like, you're meeting with this person for 2 minutes, you're getting minimal information about their perspective on their situation, and then you're administering meds immediately. Red flag. Another red flag is when patients were denied treatment or given a hard time based on them not having insurance or the type of insurance they had. Red flag. We know money is the gas to get the car moving in America, but at the end of the day, the hospital can afford it. Don't believe what they tell you. Number 3, let's turn it up a little bit. Our psychiatrist on the ward, he had hundreds of patients, going back to that 2-minute drive-by sessions he would have and then diagnose people. Yeah, and when he would diagnose people and administer meds, he'd bill their insurance company. So he's making hand over fist, so much so to, I guess, where it triggered the DEA, and he went under an investigation for 2 weeks. Came back and nothing was different. Nothing was different. What was the point? All right, let's turn it up again. There was a patient who was misdiagnosed from the psychiatrist in our facility for about 3 years. And when he fought it and finally found out what it actually was, he was put on new meds recommended by the doctor, the same one, and slowly over the next 8 to 10 months became a zombie, and they blamed it on drug use, even though this patient didn't have any history of using any type of substances, but they said, oh, he must be lying. He started having seizures from the medication. He started getting lockjaw. And then after he was discharged, he passed into sleep 3 days after. Hospital never claimed responsibility. Another one bites the dust. Ain't this sounding crazy so far? Make sure you stay tuned for this last one, because that's where like another message I have for y'all is attached to this, and it is shocking. Another red flag is when nurses and charge nurses would be very complicit to what the higher ups are saying. So very much obedient, not really questioning. You had some that would spend time with patients when doctors would, come up with things to address them with medically or psych med wise. And they'd be like, no, I don't think so. I've been seeing the patient exhibiting this behavior and that behavior, and there would be some tug of war, push and pull. But then you had some nurses that's just like, they hear the doctor say something that doesn't sound right, but they're like, battery mode, I'm just here to do my okay, doc, yep, I'll put that in their meds tonight. What? Then they just go over to the patient and say, hey, the doc wanted to increase your meds, blah, 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 spiel. We're taught to trust these people without any type of proof or evidence, just because they're in the position they are, and of course the patients will take what they are given. This was another big one for me when I would take patients to court or escort them to psych court if they wanted to fight being held in the psych ward, feeling like they are not needing treatment in the way in which they're getting it, and that they can seek outpatient treatment or independent resources. How the prosecuting lawyer or whatever the opposing side is wanting the patient to be locked up in a unit, they would start bringing up all types of things to muddy the patient's name. And to me, it would seem like, okay, why are you going this hard for this person that's dealing with depression? You know what I'm saying? Like, why are you bringing up a traffic ticket of them speeding, showing they're emotionally irrational and would need up to 60 days inpatient, and you're telling the judge, hey, can you please grant this? And a lot of the times the judge would be like, boom, granted. I'm like, what? There were times after I learned the system and saw how things go and would go, that I was able to help patients position themselves, saying the right words, knowing their rights, to be in the best position to not be taken advantage of when they go before a judge. I got one really good story on this old man who was being truly screwed over, getting injected by medication against his will, and he had some stick-to-itiveness, and I was able to help this gentleman to get his freedom. The courtroom was clapping, man. It seemed like something crazy, and it was. I'll have to tell that story at some point. I will. For my OGs, people that's been here rocking with me for more than 2 years, y'all probably already heard that story. It might be in my playlist if you scroll enough. It's about an old man. But yeah, these judges be out here allowing people to get locked up and injected with medications and all this types of stuff. And it's just running this whole thing that we don't know is happening. And that's not to say that people that come to psych wards to get treatment for real issues aren't getting that treatment. It's just that the same way you can live in a society and work a job and live a life and have a family and have vacations, there's a bunch of other dark stuff at play under the iceberg that we perceive to be the whole thing when it's not. Then another red flag is when my groups started getting questioned and attacked, and I started getting watched by certain coworkers or even higher ups that would come to the unit. Now, when I ran my groups with patients, I made sure to use my words very wisely. Anybody that was on medications or whatnot, they were all never discouraged to take medication. What I always encouraged patients to do is to take control over the things in which they can control, whether they believe it or not. Like the coffee on the unit, the decaf coffee, because you can't have caffeinated coffee when you're taking all these medications. It throws it off. You know, they'll be chugging that like water. I'll be like, think of the health implications, you know, like the way that they go along to get along. And I'm not judging these patients because they're people just like me, just like us. But the way they go along to get along, saying yes when the doctor says gives them these medications without explanation, you know, it kind of like applies to the other areas of your life, to where you'll just eat whatever, drink whatever, you know, just ingest without thinking, because clearly if this person has your best interest in mind when it comes to this potent medication, how bad could it be for me to be having just a decaf coffee? So in my groups, I would be telling patients like, incorporate more water into your life. Make sure you're having balanced meals. Getting up having these graham crackers all the time, you know, it contributes to the problems that you're having that contribute to your psychosis and mental health issues, such as your sleep, such as your sugar being high. Like, we really got into it. And some of my coworkers that were like, what makes your group so special? Like, these patients are coming out asking all these questions about medication. I'm like, is that not normal? But nah, you feel threatened when a person that's a patient in that position is asking you a legitimate question that does kind of pull the rug under what you're administering, and you feel that that is an attack on your intelligence. So you act exactly how the higher ups will want you to act, and you're a agent, a bot, if you will, and start fortifying everything you're saying with more paperwork for them to agree that they wouldn't understand. And if need be, threats, you know, that if you're gonna deny medication, it's gonna lead to increased hospitalization time because these are the meds that the doctor did prescribe to you. And then lastly, y'all, and as promised, I'll get into what I was about to say, is when the same patients would come over and over and over and over and over again, and it wasn't a problem to nobody. It's just like a subscription service of patients that are coming for their weekly, monthly, whatever. And I talked to a lot of patients. I've talked to thousands of patients in my psych career of 7 years working in psych. There's an entire world that we don't understand that is group homes, government assistance that comes monthly towards these patients, and they have to live in group homes because they are not allowed to live by themselves. They have a payee, somebody that's in charge of their money, and these could be well-to-do individuals, and there's no hope of independence for them, none. And the way these group homes would come in to visit our unit and to interview patients, it would be so predatory. They first want to know how much these patients make, to see if it satisfies what they can take from them for them to be in their group home that they don't update, that got crap everywhere. There's abuse on all levels that go on. And some of these patients are left with like $5 to spend out of their money that these group homes take. So they crash out, they come to the ward, you know, they have a little grippy sock vacation. They might try to find a new group home, but if you're at the bottom of the barrel financially, you're not gonna be able to afford a good one. So meanwhile, your body is a means of profit to these industries. It pays. And then I realized this is all a factory. What else is happening like this? This tasteless, hard to perceive, embedded corruption and slavery. You better believe I woke up. If you made it this far, follow me on the Blue